Good morning, everyone, and we want to thank you for joining us for today's webinar, the first of 2024. In today's session, we have our Deputy CEO, Mr. Roshaun Clarke, alongside Solutions Engineer here at Spatial, Lionel Grant. In today's topic, we will delve into migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. So if you're still using ArcMap, now is a perfect time to switch to ArcGIS Pro. With its tight integration with the ArcGIS platform, you will be able to share and consume content more efficiently than ever before. Additionally, with the ability to work with 2D and 3D maps in the same project, ArcGIS Pro offers a modern workflow that cannot be matched by ArcMap. So, Roshaun, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Philip, for the introduction. I would like to just get a second to share my screen and walk us through the agenda for today. Bear with me 1 second as I do so. You can let me know if you're seeing me in full screen at the moment. Can you confirm, Philip?
Yes, Roshaun, so you are good to go. It looks good.
All right, thanks much. All right, so good morning to everyone. Good afternoon if you're joining from a different time zone. Good night, and welcome to our spatial webinar as our moderator just shared. Today we're going to speak about the topic of migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro, and it will be presented by myself and my colleague Lionel Grant from Spatial Innovision. Our agenda for today is to have an overview of the topic and dive into some high-level conversations around that, specifically about the journey from ArcMap to ArcPro from a technology side, as well as your great work that you're doing and how we have tried our best to gradually bring you along this transition. Then we're going to speak to a more technical part of the conversation, which will be delivered by my colleague, Mr. Grant. He's going to give you a deep dive into some of the technical areas around migrating, the difference between ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. And we hope that that will add some clarity, some knowledge transfer. And of course, we are very happy to have conversations after this webinar. Finally, we will hear from you, our valid participants, our community, in a Q&A session, and we hope that you feel free and welcome to shoot as many questions our way as possible. We'll do our best to answer them on this session, and if not, we can certainly schedule a follow-up session to help you in migrating. Just a little about Spatial Innovision. We're the Esri distributor for the English-speaking Caribbean, covering islands from Bahamas all the way to the country of Guyana. And we are your geospatial and GIS experts in the region, and we're happy to have you on the call. Now, before I go deeper into the overview, I just want to identify 3 key terms and make a few distinctions within these terms. The term ArcGIS Desktop, the term ArcMap, and the term ArcGIS Pro. Now, most of you would have already known these terms, but the distinction that I'd like to make is more along the lines of ArcGIS Desktop and ArcMap. What we have is that sometimes these terms are interchangeably used, and we want to clarify that ArcGIS Desktop does come with the application ArcMap, but that should not become confused with the lower section of the screen where you see ArcGIS Pro, which is a desktop GIS software. So while we might be moving away from ArcMap, and in essence, moving away from ArcGIS Desktop, we are not moving away from a desktop application. ArcGIS Pro is the desktop GIS software for you, but it has so much more functionality, adaptability, capabilities that we don't brand it only as a ArcGIS desktop because it can be leveraged in the online space as well. So I just wanted to make that distinction that while we're on this call, you may hear terms like ArcGIS Desktop and ArcMap being used interchangeably. But that is not to be confused with ArcGIS Pro and its ability to power desktop GIS software. Okay, now why are we having this conversation? It's all about a life cycle. Now, many of you would know that in the tech space, what is 1 year, a calendar year, is really almost 4 years in the life cycle of some technology. Some technology come and go within a short period of time. And that's just because of the nature of tech and the evolution of capabilities and the constant updating and upgrading and increased functionality. So this, what we have on the screen, is just a timeline to show you where we are. Now, there were previous versions of ArcGIS Desktop and ArcMap before version 10.8.2. However, 10.8.2 is where we started to see the integration of ArcGIS Pro as a first step in transitioning our users. 10.8.2 desktop has both ArcMap and the other applications, ArcCatalog and so on, but it also has ArcGIS Pro. That was released in 2021, and it has continued to be available to now, actually. However, in 2022, the sale of new desktop or desktop to new customers was we stopped doing that as the product entered into what we call extended support period. This is where now the standard for new customers coming on is to just go straight to the latest technology. It would be the equivalent of us, of another company, ensuring that when someone is buying a computer or a laptop, they're buying the latest technology with it and not a slower or older operating system. So similarly, new customers, we brought them straight into ArcGIS Pro, and they've been having great success with that. However, that is not in any way to discredit the great work that our users with ArcMap are having. And this has been the reason why Esri has been very gradual with the transition, because we understand that there is great work already going. And let's just be frank, if something ain't broke, why try to fix it? So if you're already doing great work with ArcMap, why would you want to move away from it? And we will go through a few reasons why it would really make sense to go to Pro, but we understand the thinking and the pace that some of us may have in transitioning. Now we're at as of March 1st, 2024, we enter the mature support stage. And what this means is, for most customers, those who are aware of our maintenance program, and the maintenance program allows customers to have access to latest versions of the software, as well as a lot of other benefits, from self-paced e-learning to the Esri community, and access to events and so on. As of March 1st, 2024, we're going to be moving away from maintenance of ArcGIS Desktop, and getting our customers over, and our colleagues and our community over to ArcGIS Pro. And so this webinar is a very timely one, as Philip mentioned, because we want to be as supportive as possible in helping you in that transition. And as you'll see in the final column, March 1st, 2026 is when desktop actually, ArcGIS desktop actually retires. So in keeping with that timeline, we're really here to help you with the migration process. Now, again, you asked why ArcGIS Pro. Some of the high-level advantages, and my colleague will speak more to the technical side of it in a few, but the 64-bit framework that it's built on, it actually allows for way more functionality than ArcMap. If we use the concept of bits, we will know that an 8-bit is it's not as agile, let's use that word, as what comes with the 64-bit, and especially when it starts to integrate with online and other operating systems, that's when you really see the value of ArcGIS Pro. It's more powerful from an analytic standpoint, because Pro is still very alive and well, and because ArcMap is in the mature state, support stage, then the annual updates to the technology will be available with ArcGIS Pro. As well as I mentioned, it operates it's so smoothly between online, desktop, and server environments. And this is a visual of that. So as you would see in the middle here, ArcGIS Pro being that software, that engine for the system, and it allows for operation in the ArcGIS Online stage, which environment, which comes with a bunch of apps, as well as the ArcGIS Enterprise, or your server software environment. And everything runs smoothly in between to allow you to work either in this form of joint collaborative system, or you can have it as your standalone product and work outside of the organization as an individual GIS professional. So it really works in a very flexible way to you as an end user. Now, before I hand over to my colleague, I just want to speak quickly about the licensing, if you're thinking of licensing ArcGIS Pro. Now, you can license ArcGIS Pro in 3 main ways. The main, I have a mistake, it should be named user, not names users. But the main or default way would be the named user way. And this is where you work within a ArcGIS online organization, and you deploy a user type called a GIS professional to the person within the organization that would want to use ArcGIS Pro. Again, that flexibility allows you to assign that to someone for a week or 2 weeks or 6 months or a year, and then assign it to someone else at a different time as you so desire. You can also license it as a single use, where you are using it outside of a ArcGIS online organization, and it's assigned to one person. Or you could have it as a concurrent use. Currently, that is coming through the ArcGIS desktop 10.8.2. So you can have it as a pool of licenses, so to speak, and you deploy it to different persons at different times, right? Now, going to the default way, the named user model, there are 3 main types of, or 3 levels of ArcGIS Pro: basic, standard, and advanced. And by it being in the subscription license model, it means that you can use it within the online environment and get access to a bunch of apps as well, if you so desire. Now, a quick distinction between each of those. GIS Professional Basic pretty much allows you to map, visualize, and manage your data. It allows for you to combine multiple forms of data from 3D to CAD to imagery into one single map. And as I mentioned, it allows you to connect with ArcGIS Online as well as the ArcGIS Living Atlas. Now, in terms of the professional standard, it allows everything that I just mentioned for Professional Basic, but it also allows for data editing and ability to edit multi-user databases. And it really allows it to have ability to automate your quality control, such as your managed workflows. And of course, as we go up the ladder of functionality, advanced being the highest, this would allow for more GIS data analysis, modeling, and high-end cartography, as well as extensive data and database management capabilities. Now, if you're not interested in the named user side or the subscription, and the main reason is for some customers, they rather not have an online component. Let's say you're in the in a area of your work within, let's say, intelligence or statistics or something where you want your data to stay within your organization behind a firewall. It's sensitive, and you don't want any exposure to your data in the online environment. There is an option to work with an ArcGIS Pro single use. It's what we call a perpetual standalone license. This does not come with a named user, but this allows you to do all the work that you want to do in an ArcGIS Pro application on your desktop, but outside of the online environment. So these are some of the licensing options that are available. I'm happy to speak more about that, but at this time, I would want to pause and pass over to my colleague, Mr. Lionel Grant, who can speak more about the technical side of ArcGIS Pro in comparison to ArcMap. Lionel, over to you.
Thank you, Roshaun. Good day to all, and good day to all our attendees. I echo that, and thanks again for joining this in the first of our 2024 webinar series entitled Migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. Following some points made by Roshaun about why migrating. Now, there are some things to point out about migrating. I'll be looking at a checklist that Esri provided, which would be very helpful in the process of migration. So in migrating, one of the things to note about ArcGIS Pro is that it's a 64-bit application, as was pointed out. The interface is contextual, and I'll explain that momentarily. You're able to work with 2D and 3D data in the same project. And if you have ArcMap, then there's some ways to import some of what you would have been doing in ArcMap in ArcGIS Pro, and we'll show you how to do that momentarily as well. In your ArcMap application, you'd have noticed that you have ArcMap separately from ArcCatalog, separately from ArcScene, and separately from ArcGlobe. Now, in the ArcMap view, you have your data view and your layout view. The first is where you would author your maps, and the second is where you would share in terms of edit to share. Now, ArcCatalog, this window is where you find things like your folders, and ArcGlobe and ArcScene is where you get to work in 3D and the 2D data. What ArcGIS Pro does is that it brings all four of those, your ArcMap, your ArcCatalog, your ArcScene, and ArcGlobe, into one application for you to work with instead of in four different pieces of application. So you can work in one and same application. And the added capability of bringing, not just having them in different tabs, but through linking in your views tab, you're able to dock these on different sections of your screen. As you're seeing on this slide, you have one map towards the top left. You have another map on the top right, and then you have scenes toward the bottom on either the right or the left of the screen. So all of those different views, you can have them either in differing tabs, or you can have all of them on one screen for your own comparison and viewing. There's also an additional capability where you can link 2D to 3D views, and as you zoom into one, it also zoom into the exact location of the other for your own comparison and analysis. In the checklist provided by Esri, you will be able to see how to seamlessly migrate from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. The first thing that we'd want to look at in the checklist is to learn the terminologies in ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. Now, in your ArcMap, you will realize that the naming and the interface is going to be different. The location of different tools is going to be different in finding and in knowing the names of different tools within the applications, right? So in ArcMap, for example, you will have a table of contents window, and I'll show you that momentarily when we're looking side by side on the same applications. But in ArcGIS Pro, you have a contents pane. In ArcMap, you have the data view. In ArcGIS Pro, you have the map view. You have layout view. So they may be synonymous, but differing terminologies for different tools and the different parts of the interface in ArcGIS Pro versus ArcMap. So if you look side by side here, you'll realize that ArcMap looks a little bit different from ArcGIS Pro. You are working with, in ArcMap, it will show, for example, over towards the catalog section, you will see connections to your data sources, your toolbox. While in ArcGIS Pro, you notice that towards the right, extreme right, you will find differing tabs for different functionalities, different links. Firstly, in ArcGIS Pro, you'll see the project tab under the catalog pane, your maps, your toolboxes, databases, styles, folders, etc. While in the catalog view window of ArcMap, you'll find toolboxes, you'll find different folders, but not just catalog, not just the project tab in ArcGIS Pro, but also Portal, which connects you to ArcGIS Online, the Living Atlas, as well as content that would have been created by you or shared with you, whether through groups or with your organization. There's also another tab in the catalog for favorites, things that you would have selected as your favorites that you would have been working on for ease of access. In ArcMap, those of you who are ArcMap users, you'll notice that you have your menu and toolbar containing all the commands that you need, for example, to add data, to open a file, to save a file. But in ArcGIS Pro, what you'll notice is that it looks a lot like your Microsoft Office applications, as it uses the ribbon interface with the ArcGIS Pro commands. So you'll find that there are different tabs in ArcGIS Pro: your Map tab, your Insert tab, your Analysis tab, your Views tab, your Edit tab, Imagery tab, Sharing, Help, among others. Now, there would be some additional tabs that would be opened, and those are very context sensitive. They'll only come on based on the layer that you would have selected in the contents pane. That's the contents pane over towards the left of the application, synonymous to the table of contents in ArcMap. In your Map tab, if you should select that, is the tab that normally comes up by default, is your tool to explore. With your, if you want to pan across your screen, if you want to zoom in and zoom out, you'll find those different functionalities. But what Esri does in ArcGIS Pro is that Esri arranges them in different groups. So you have tabs, you have the different functionalities arranged into groups, which are then arranged into tabs. So in your Map tab, you'll find in your Navigate group how to get around in terms of zooming in, zooming out, panning your screen, as well as being able to locate based on coordinates and also to bookmark certain sections of your map. In the selection group of the map tabs, that's where you go to whether you're going to select by attributes, whether you're going to select by location, or explore different, whether you want to explore your attribute table or you want to clear whatever selection you would have made. You can also zoom into things that you would have selected. So as you look at the comparison on the screen, you'll find that the functionalities are synonymous. There's also bookmarks. You could bookmark in ArcMap. You can also bookmark in ArcGIS Pro. You could pan your screen, zoom in, zoom out, zoom to location in ArcMap. You can also do that in ArcGIS Pro. But there are just different ways of accessing. For example, in ArcMap, in your toolbar, you could use the plus add functionality to add data, to add a base map. But in ArcGIS Pro, what you realize is that that base map functionality just comes up separate from the add data button. Additionally, some persons may want to take a screenshot of this just for their own recording. And we'll also be publishing it to our YouTube channel. So you can always go and rewatch to see how you can find the different buttons in ArcGIS Pro, the different tools in ArcGIS Pro as you were using in ArcMap as well, and where to find those. In ArcMap, you would have been used to working with your data view and your layout view, and you would have to be toggling from one to the other. However, in ArcGIS Pro, what ArcGIS Pro does is opens them as different tabs, and so you can always navigate from your map tab to the tab where you are working on things like your legend and setting up your map for publishing. An additional functionality in ArcGIS Pro is the ability to dock different views, as I would have been mentioning before. So you can use your mouse of your computer to just drag down a tab into whether you want to dock it in the center of your screen, to the left, to the right, or to the top of the screen, wherever you want to dock that view. You can always do so on the screen at your own, however you want to arrange it on the screen. After you dock those, you may want to link them together. So depending on whatever workflow you are looking at, so let's say, for example, you want to zoom into an area in 2D, but you also want to zoom into the same area in 3D for your own analysis. Once you link that through the Views tab, that is possible. When you open ArcMap, you would have noticed different ways of opening the application, how you want to open it. But additionally, in Pro, you have that advantage as well, because when you open the ArcGIS Pro application, there's a couple of ways that the application requires of you how you'd want to open the application. Number one, you could open a map, and it goes, you'll be able to give it a name and store it, and then it opens to a fresh map application. Or you could look at recent projects or reopen recent projects which are there as pinned if you look on the screen. And there's also the ability to open in a 3D view by going to a global scene or a local scene. But there's another way of opening that is very popular, which is called Start Without a Template. You may not want to store a map that you would be working on, but just to do like a quick analysis or a quick view of attributes or a quick view of your map. You start without a template, and then you open from the Insert tab a new map and be able to do whatever work that you would want to be working on in a map, and then you can close it without saving. So different functionalities, different ways of opening the application, depending on whatever you're looking to do. ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro use different file extensions. The MXD for ArcMap users is what you have noticed that the file is being saved as. But for ArcGIS Pro, it's saved as an APRX file. But what you'll notice in ArcMap is that it saves your scene different from your map MXD file, different from the world map that we would have been using as the base map. In ArcGIS Pro, however, what ArcGIS Pro does is that it stores your geodatabase, your maps, everything in one project. So you can access those in the same place. Another thing to note is that you do not need to open the geodatabase to get into the project because the project file there works on its own. So you can just open the file and start doing whatever work or view that you would have wanted to be doing. And it's important to note that every 5 minutes that whatever you'd have been doing is a backup is created for that. Your projects, to access those, they are available in the catalog pane towards the right of the application. So you can, as you can see on the screen, the catalog pane. In the project window of the catalog pane, you can find whatever maps you would have created in that project. You can also find whatever layouts you would have done, things that you would have worked on in terms of you added legends to them in the layout view. Or toolboxes, for example, which contains whatever models and tools that you would have worked on. The project tab of the catalog pane also contains, as I mentioned before, your toolboxes, but also the database that you'd have been working in with all the different layers and styles and folders. Well, you may be asking the question then, I have been working with ArcMap for so long. And if I'm supposed to be using ArcGIS Pro now, what about all the work that I would have done? What's going to happen to that? Well, ArcGIS Pro was built in a way that all the MXD file that you would have worked on in ArcMap is able to be imported in ArcGIS Pro. That is done. You can go to insert and just import those. In ArcMap, what you'll find in the contents pane is that each map is there as a data frame. However, when you import that from the insert tab over into ArcGIS Pro, so you go into the insert tab and you go import map, or you can also import a layout that you'd have worked on with all your legends, import them into ArcGIS Pro. Once you go to import map, you'll find that those maps that are in the table of contents, they're not going to come over into the contents of ArcGIS Pro like that. They'll come up as differing tabs in ArcGIS Pro. So if you should look here, what you will find is that each data frame becomes a new tab, map tab in ArcGIS Pro. So you have the San Diego towards the extreme right here map, you have the downtown San Diego map, and you have a world oceans. All of those come over here, including the layout, as a different map in and of itself in the tab. Now, if you want to look at them all at the same time, you could do what I mentioned before by dragging each tab into the main screen that you're working on, into the application, and then linking them together if you need to link them, but just put them side by side for your own visualization and analysis. Another question that you may ask, what if I'm supposed to migrate to ArcGIS Pro? Can my hardware meet the system requirements? How would I know how to do this? Well, this link provides the way for you to run your own system requirements. Once you click on the link, it provides to you what is needed, so you can check with your own IT persons about if your personal computer that you're using matches all of these requirements. Or what you could do is run your own systems check. So the link provides that as well. And once you, well, this check allows for 3.2, which is the latest version that we're at now of ArcGIS Pro. So once you run that check, ArcGIS Pro returns to you a report of what you have and if you meet the system requirements. From my own test that I've done, it says that congratulations, your system passes the recommended requirements and have met at least the minimum standard of the requirements. The report, of course, is a little longer than this, but this is just a section of the report here. Some persons who would have created their models in ArcMap may be wondering at this time, what about my models? What about the scripts that I would have worked on? What is going to happen to those? Can those be brought over into ArcGIS Pro? Will I be able to access those? And if it's possible to import them, then will it be a seamless process? Well, what you are not able just to migrate the MXD file, the map document over into ArcGIS Pro, but you can also migrate your tools and different things that you have worked on in your model builder. So your Python scripts, for example, in most cases will be brought over to ArcGIS Pro because ArcGIS Pro uses Python 3.x on the desktop and the ArcGIS server application uses Python 2.x. In spite of the differences between the Python versions, many geoprocessing scripts can be used without modification in either ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro. In some cases, then what Esri recommends is that you migrate Python scripts to ArcGIS Pro. And there is a tool that is available in the geoprocessing tools available in ArcGIS Pro called the Analyze Tool for Pro geoprocessing tool to analyze a script or toolbox for whatever necessary changes that you would need to make. In terms of your model, you can also migrate the model. And if the tool is not available, what ArcGIS Pro will not work with the model in that case. And so you may need to be able to remove the tool and use an alternative workflow in ArcGIS to basically do the very same thing that you were looking to do in ArcMap. What ArcGIS Pro does is that when you're trying to migrate over any of your Python scripting that you would have worked on or your models that you would have built, if there are any issues, ArcGIS Pro will return to you warnings with codes in those warnings. So those codes are easily searchable in your browser, because what Esri provides is that there's some workarounds for those errors, and then you'll be able to see what other customers would have been doing similar workflow as yours and how they would resolve those and what Esri's solution is to it. And so you'll be able to work comfortably from there with those warning messages and the resolution provided by Esri. And these are just some more error codes that once you click on it, it takes you to your browser, to Esri solution in your browser. There are some settings that you can configure in the project tab of ArcGIS Pro. Once you click on that, there's a couple of things that you can configure from there, not just to open a new application, not just to open a new project that you'd have been working on or start a new project, but things, for example, like connecting to a portal, licensing extensions. So there's accessing learning resources. There's a couple of things that you could do further. So the project tab is located to the top, almost to the top left of the screen of your Pro, and from there you can configure whatever settings that you would need to configure. For example, in the options tab, in the options of the project tab, you can maybe select like a default database that you would want to store your data in, as opposed to one that is already just provided by default. Through opening the application, you may want to change where you want to store whatever you'd have been working on. You can do that through options of the project tab. In the general tab, there are some other things that you can be working on in terms of the location. In licensing, for example, you may have some additional extensions that you may want to license. And you're saying, how can I license my extensions? How can I use my extensions? Well, if you go to the project tab and you select licensing, it shows you the host of different extensions that are available in ArcGIS Pro. And then from there, you can license whatever extension that you have with whatever code that you would have received to license it. In the About section, for example, maybe you want to say, you know, I need to know what version of ArcGIS Pro I'm at. And in the project tab, you can go to About, and there you can find about 3.1.2. And if you need to update, providing that you're current on your annual maintenance, then you can update as well. Of course, this check was run in 2003, so at the time it was at 3.1.2, but now ArcGIS Pro is actually at 3.2, just a point of information. Within the project tab, you may find that there's a list of portals that you're a part of, and you may want to select from here which one exactly that you want to be connected to. And so you do that from portals in the project tab. So these are just some background settings that you may want to look into exploring when using ArcGIS Pro. Some common workflows that you would have been doing in ArcMap, you may be wondering, how do I edit in ArcGIS Pro? What about analysis? What about mapping? What about sharing what I would have been doing? How is that done? Well, editing in ArcGIS Pro is very interesting, because what you'll realize, the difference between ArcGIS Pro and in ArcMap, you would need to start and stop editing, and sometimes it may be a little tedious for some persons at times. But in ArcGIS Pro, everything is basically context sensitive. Depending on whatever layer you would have clicked on in or selected, rather in the contents pane, the editing tools would appear for that layer, whether it's a polygon layer, whether it's a point layer, whether it's a line layer, everything that would have been needed for that layer, the application is sensitive to that layer that is selected in the contents pane. You can create and modify those features in the Edit tab. All editing is done from the Edit tab. You can create, modify, or delete features from the Edit tab. Also, you can work with group templates or preset templates, and also assign geodatabase topology for your work that you'd have been working on ArcGIS Pro. In terms of analysis, the analysis is done from the Analysis tab. As I mentioned before, everything is arranged into tab, and under tabs you'll find groups, and within each group you'll find the different functionalities of ArcGIS Pro that you're looking for. In the Analysis tab, and this is context sensitive, as you select it depending on the layer that you would have selected. So whatever geoprocessing tool that you are looking for would be applied to the layer that is selected in the contents pane. Once you select the Analysis tab, in the geoprocessing group, which is the first group under the Analysis tab, you select tools, and then it opens a geoprocessing pane. Over to the extreme right, where you will have your catalog window, and you're able to search for whatever tools that you would want to use. And once you search for those, then it brings up a couple of options and then you select the one that you are looking for. From the Analysis tab, you work as well in geoprocessing, in the geoprocessing group, with models, with scripting, and just a few things to highlight that whatever tools you're looking to use, you can find those in the Analysis tab. In terms of your mapping and visualization, what you'll notice in ArcGIS Pro is that you can open multiple layouts. You know, as I mentioned before, you can open multiple windows in the application, so you can pan around on your screen from one to the other to work on them. And these are just, in terms of working with a map series, these are just a few functionalities here in terms of visualizing that you find that you can be using in ArcGIS Pro that are synonymous with ArcMap. When it comes down to sharing, that is done from the sharing tab, right? So you can share a map. For example, let's look at it in stages then. The first group under sharing is the package group. So you may want to share a project package, which will include not just your maps, but your layouts, all your layers, everything that you have been working on, your tools and models. Those, if you want to share everything, then you'll share it as a project. If you want to share all your layers, only you'll share it as a map package. And then as you go over to, for example, like the share as group, you may want to share something to ArcGIS Online. You can share it as a web map, or you can share layers, depending on what you want to share, and you can always just select it based. There are different sharing capabilities under the sharing tab in different groups that allows you to, whether you want to share to a portal, or maybe you just want to print something as a PDF, a georeference PDF on your, just to store on file. There are different ways of doing that, and all you need to do is just go to the share tab and select whatever option that is of interest to you. So as we bring this home, in terms of migrating, as you look on the checklist provided by Esri, we're going through a couple of things. We're starting with learning the terminology. And that's just like a cursory look through, because there's so many other things that we could look at in terms of terminologies. Then we're going up to importing documents and layouts from ArcGIS Pro, from ArcMap rather, to use in ArcGIS Pro. And then we're talking about other things like reviewing models and how to run tools to review your models. And we are at this step now where we're saying that Roshaun would have pointed to this earlier, while we are encouraging migration, right? So the last version of ArcMap was done, it was released back in 2021, and it was at 10.8.2. And as the application is upon retirement, which should be done in 2026, what you'll find is that support would be lessened, different types of support will be lessened as you approach that date. And after 2026, the only thing that one will be able to access is just some online support resources that would be in the Learning Academy of Esri, or in the, or whatever Esri would have put out in their distributed communities or in help online. Then you can access those just for assistance with working with the application. But what you'll find out is a lot of the support will lessen as you go along. And here are some of the things that you are seeing on screen, and Roshaun would have already gone through some of those initially. Now, finally, you may be wondering, you know, if I'm to migrate, what are some resources that can assist me? If I needed assistance outside of just this webinar, you know, I need far more than just the webinar is one tool, but what else would I have to follow up with them? I'm pleased to announce some of those in this session. Number one is the Esri Academy. And once a license is purchased for ArcGIS, that's one of the links that is sent to our customers, is that we provide access to the Esri Academy. In the Esri Academy, you can learn from there through some courses that are complementary to those who are current with their maintenance, to basically go through some self-paced courses of how to migrate from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro and how to use ArcGIS Pro. For a more extended assistance and greater knowledge of the application or greater knowledge of the migration process and how to work with ArcGIS Pro. For experienced ArcMap users, we propose an instructor-led training called Migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. So that's available for persons who are interested in taking the instructor-led paid training. There's also a link here to getting started with ArcGIS Pro, which can be explored as well. And there's the ArcGIS blog where you can find information that will have been posted about the application. There's the Esri distributor community, the Esri community, rather, that allows you to post questions or basically search to see questions that would have already been posted by your fellow customers of ArcGIS that perhaps you may have a question, you may want to work through something, and there may be many other persons out there who would have had the same question. And so the question along with the answers would have been posted, and in terms of workflow and workarounds and how to get those going would have been answered by Esri through the community. There's also the ArcGIS Pro Help, and there's a link to access directly here. So once you use those different tools and different others, then you'll be able to comfortably migrate, and Spatial Induction Limited would be pleased to assist in that migration at any time that it is needed. Roshaun, I'm just going to hand over back to you now for any final words and in terms of whether there are questions that need to be answered by our viewers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. And thanks for such a very in-depth, comprehensive, and detailed overview. I would say even more than an overview, a deep dive into all that comes with migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. I see that we have quite a few participants. So I would ask, I would check the chat first to see if there are any questions. I see a question here from Nadia Nazir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadia Nazir. Can you please provide me with your salesperson email and contact so I can have a ArcGIS renew? So we can drop the contact in the chat. Excuse me. And certainly we can have a conversation around your GIS needs. So let me do that real quick. In the meantime, if there are any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as we speak. Okay, on the Q&A side, I see a few questions. So the first one is, if I migrate to ArcGIS Pro, do I have to upgrade my license server? To migrate to ArcGIS Pro, do you need to upgrade your license server? That's a good question. The person who manages the license server part of it is not on this call. So what I would suggest is if you could share your email address with us, we could certainly follow up with you. I don't want to take a stab at that question and pass any information that I'm not fully authoritative on. So if you could drop your email address in the chat, we certainly can get back to you today with a response to that. The other question is, how going to ArcGIS Pro affect my federal portal environment? Again, portal server, there's a particular colleague that manages that side of stuff. I would really ask you to, we can make note of those questions, but if you just drop your email in the chat and any other questions you may have.
Roshaun.
Yeah, you want to take a stab at that question?
Well, just to look at the question in terms of, because I know you mentioned something about And the customer, the persons who put the question, it's be good if you could clarify based on what I'm about to respond. Because you said that you have a federated, how going to ArcGIS Pro affect my federated portal environment? I don't know if there's a concern about, if it's a concern about privacy. So what you would have mentioned before about ArcGIS Online, where Esri manages the ArcGIS Online versus being able to stand up something within your own IT infrastructure for you, depending on whether you want something in the cloud or you want it directly in your own IT infrastructure. I don't know if it's that exactly you're looking at, but if you could clarify, then you'll be able to provide further information on that.
So that question is for clarity to the person with the last two questions. What's the question, Lionel? You want clarity if there are concerns around security?
Right. So if they're looking, because we know that in ArcGIS Online, that is managed by Esri, but if a person has concerns about and ArcGIS Online, from what we know, is pretty safe because of even the US government uses it. But are they looking about hosting it within their own infrastructure in case there are concerns? Then they would have to go ArcGIS Enterprise for that. So I'm trying to understand the question, so if it could be fleshed out more. But as that is addressed, there's another question that says, apologies in advance for the amount of questions, but let's take it in steps. The first one says, please repeat how the name user license work. So I don't know if you could go back to that slide, Roshaun, or you just want to speak to that, and then we could take the second question.
Right. So I wouldn't open back the slide, but the named users, how that works is you have a ArcGIS organization, and that is a organization with your own data, your own setup in a templated online organization environment. And how that works, similar, I would want to say very loosely, like how Office 365 works, where you have multiple apps within your account, and you can assign email addresses to different persons within your organization and give people different access to different groups and all that. Very loosely, I'm not saying it is Office 365, but it works in that same kind of model where you have ArcGIS, a GIS professional user type, which is a particular user type that you can assign to someone in your organization. And that person that you want to use ArcGIS Pro would be assigned a GIS professional user type. It can be 3 different types of user type, whether basic, advanced, or standard, depending on the level of functionality that you want and the level of GIS work that they want to do. But from a scale of basic to advanced, you can assign that GIS professional to the person within your organization. And within that organization, you would have an administrator, and that administrator would be the one who assigns the named user to the professional or to the colleague with the GIS Pro. And you can also move that license to someone else at a different time, or so on and so forth. So it gives you ability to manage it how you want to manage it as an organization and move the functionality or the role around. I hope that answers it.
Thank you, Roshaun. The second part of the question is, it safe to say that all functionalities in ArcMap has now been incorporated in ArcGIS Pro? Now, what you will notice is that there may be different names for the functionalities, but to answer generally for that, let me speak first to for example, the geoprocessing tools. Let's answer it like that. And if there are other things that you want to know about functionality, then you could respond further with a follow-up question. But in terms of the geoprocessing tools, for example, most of the geoprocessing tools in ArcMap are available in ArcGIS Pro. Some tools that are not available may be available in the future. And the tools that work with data formats that are not supported in ArcGIS Pro, such as coverages, will not be available in the future. But it's important to note that each release of ArcGIS Pro includes new geoprocessing tools that are also not available in ArcMap. So you can look at it. There are some tools in ArcGIS Pro that are not going to be available in ArcMap at all. And if there's any in ArcMap that is not in ArcGIS Pro currently, then there's plan to integrate those in the future. Or there may just be a case where tools are available, but they may have the functionalities are available, but they may have a different name in ArcGIS Pro. So that's a couple of things to look at. There's a third part to that question.
Yes, the third part was, oh, I'm not seeing the question anymore.
Oh, because it was selected as answered, so open again. I'm not sure if you are in a position to answer this, but what does a potential SVUG building looks like with Pro going forward? I'm going to hand that over to you, Roshaun, to answer that third question.
Right. You said by this I mean MDAs have a shared GOJ organizational account under the AS. So what would good licensing look like? I don't believe that would change in any way because these licenses can be deployed in a very similar way to how it is now. I can confirm again off the call because I like to watch my words very carefully and I like to make sure that what I'm saying is tried, tested, and proven. But my understanding and my general thinking is that it would not be any deterrent or negative impact. It probably would make it better because from the core of ArcGIS Pro, it is designed to be flexible, adaptable, and give more seamless use of it across an organization, an enterprise, or a government. So I wouldn't see it being something that would be problematic. Let's put it that way. Another question here is from okay, the same person from before. I don't think you had dropped your email though. I have an ArcGIS Enterprise Federated portal environment. And I want to know, this is probably in response to your question, Lionel.
Okay. Before prior to that one, let me apologize. Let me take because there's one that came before that one. Can ArcGIS
yes, I see it. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead, please.
Can ArcGIS Pro and ArcMap coexist on the same platform together? Yeah, same computer rather. Yes, both of them can be installed on the same computer and opened at the same time. So you'll have no issues with that.
You can also do the next one since it was in response to your counter question.
I have, and this is a follow-up question. I have an ArcGIS Enterprise Federated Portal environment, and I want to know how going to Pro will affect that. Do I have to use Portal for ArcGIS, etc.? So as I was mentioning in terms of the port, because I was wondering if there was some security concern. I think there's security concern and Portal to ArcGIS is a part of enterprise, and that's why I was looking to answer in that regard, because that would be what you would need to go to. But it doesn't mean that you can't use ArcGIS Pro can be used both online and enterprise. So if what you have is a federated portal environment, then ArcGIS Pro is able to connect to Portal as well. To further clarify on that, I think you'd have already provided us with the contact information. Roshaun, you can confirm that. So we can have a follow-up email, a follow-up call, just to understand the direction that we're trying to go with the question and to provide whatever feedback is needed, a response to that question. Can I go from 10.8 to ArcGIS Pro? Now, if you have ArcGIS Desktop 10.8.1, it means that you also have access to ArcGIS Pro, because what Esri does is that ArcGIS Desktop is sold as a suite of products, include ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, ArcMap. So it means that if you have 10.8.1, you also have access to ArcGIS Pro, providing that that is current on maintenance. So it doesn't matter of us downloading it from your MyEsri and open on the open in and license with whatever named user based on the licensing options that Roshaun would have provided, whatever would have been provided to you by your organization. Roshaun, you have a further follow.
No, I wanted to kind of build on what you said before, because one of the main reasons why we had this webinar is to have these conversations with each of you scheduled and continuing from here. So the questions that have been shared, we are happy to schedule a call and deep dive into all of your concerns and, you know, just make sure to guide you all the different steps along that journey. So instead of us doing this one by one at the get-go, we have this webinar where we invite the entire community to have this discussion, because this is something that is not one or two organizations. Quite a few organizations are still using ArcMap, or still trying to figure out the steps to Pro. So we have this webinar to the community, but the conversation doesn't stop here. The conversation actually just started here. So don't hesitate. We encourage you, we ask you, we implore you to reach out to us, to share your contacts in the chat, and we can definitely follow up with you, not just for a one-off call, but to set the roadmap for you in moving from ArcMap to Pro. Are there any other questions? I believe we have answered around 9 questions so far, but we're definitely happy to welcome any additional questions, whether in the Q&A section or in the chat. Do feel free to share your thoughts and concerns and queries. I also want to thank Ms. Lloyd for the positive feedback on the webinar. I appreciate that. Happy to know that it's coming across well to the audience. Much appreciated.
Okay, seeing as though I'm not seeing any more questions at this time, I want to thank you, Roshaun and Lionel, for a great presentation. That was well received. If you have any final words, you can let me know. I think there might be another question coming in, so I'll just give you guys a chance.
I believe this question was answered already. The question is probably a repeat. Can ArcGIS Pro and ArcMap coexist on the same platform or computer? I believe Lionel had confirmed that that is yes. So we're confirming that they can both coexist on the same computer.
Okay, thanks. And are there any other final words, Roshaun, Lionel?
From my side, I just want to thank everyone for turning out, for spending a little over an hour with us. I also want to thank you, Philip, for coordinating this. And I also want to thank Lionel for his expertise and sharing his expertise. I just also wanted to say that from my recollection, the Spatial webinar series started. The first Spatial webinar was a 5 or 4-part series on ArcGIS Pro. We started this conversation and this cadence of meetings monthly because we wanted to really bring home the value of ArcGIS Pro. So it's a bit of a full circle for us now to have this topic again at the start of 2024. And we want to thank everyone that's been on this journey, that have always are regularly tuned into our webinars. If there are topics that you want us to go through, please feel free to send it to our email, any one of our emails, marketing@spatialvision, for instance. areas that you want to cover, and we can schedule a webinar around that. And yeah, thank you for being a part of the community, and we look forward to great work and hearing more about your great work over the next 12 months as we close out, as we embark on a new year. So thanks from my side. I'm signing off, and much appreciated, Lionel, Philip, and to our valued customers and audience.
Thanks, Roshaun. And just one question. So Julian, just confirming that the presentation, the recording for the presentation, that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you can go ahead on YouTube. Probably it should be uploaded by later this afternoon. So you can always go and check it out. You can also check out a couple of our previous webinars as well.
And to that point, Philip, I encourage everyone to subscribe to our page so that you will get your notification monthly, as well as other information that we push out. So yeah, join the community. Subscribe to our Spatial Innovision YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And let's have a two-way conversation about how GIS can help shape the world for a better world, a better environment for our friends, family, and community. Thank you, everyone.